Hello. I can't hear you. Maybe.
Can you, did I,
Oh,
can,
now I can hear you. Maybe you didn't say anything.
I was quiet for a change.
I was listening back and I don't really think you cut me off. I just think that's just how it recorded or whatever, but it
Oh,
didn't seem like that.
okay, good. Yeah, I felt like in the playback, it sounded like I was talking right on top of you. And I just feel like that wasn't really what happened because I was
Right.
trying to be very mindful of, since I can be chatty, I was trying to be extra mindful of like pausing and giving space. So I do think that it just was the way that it recorded.
Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
okay. I didn't think it was bad. I just finished it this morning.
Awesome. I felt like it I'm so glad it was so worth the effort to keep it because I'm
Yeah.
just glad it's there for anybody that wants to go back and listen. I mean, I
Right.
feel like it is painfully like just it's not great. It's hard to listen to, but for me it still was better than not.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have a new thing happening. Now we can see. I guess we should take down this bathroom towel, this rug.
Oh
Since
well.
my computer shows more of the bathroom than
Right
my
then your phone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to be, let's see, we've been on for like 2 minutes. I want to set a timer for us. Let's see, 2 minutes. Let's shoot for like 3 minutes and then we'll start and then give ourselves, I'm going to do a 25-minute timer
Okay.
for sake of like the audio that I can trim for the podcast, but that gives us just this little bit on the front end to get situated, and then it should give us a few minutes on the back end to just chill. So I love this way. I like not being live. Like I
Yeah.
mind being live before, but it takes some pressure off. I'm
Right.
I still am nervous because it's something new and I just want it to work.
Yeah. It'll
So,
be good.
how was your day?
It's really good. I'm gonna go meet my new niece after we're done. So yeah, I'm excited. My sister had her yesterday, so
Wow.
gosh, babe.
Congratulations.
Mm.
Man, I have questions, but I feel like maybe I should save that for the podcast.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay. Um, I was thinking about if, so when I tested this with Lisa, it's amazing because Zoom is just automatically recording to my computer. And
Okay.
um, I was thinking about putting this on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. So instead of it being Instagram Live, but so do you feel okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so it's just my pretty by jail. I got all kinds of stuff there. But okay, so I might do that. Maybe I just take a breath, get my timer ready, and then we just start because I feel like if I don't even know what I just, never mind. Never mind. I'll get it figured out here. So you're gonna, okay, I think we'll just start and then we can
Okay.
talk. And eventually someday maybe I won't be such a spaz. Which
No, it's
I've been meaning, not Emily, to say that word. Like, I'm so glad. Here's this, I am just human, right? And
it happens.
I grew up in the 90s. I used to say things like, oh, don't be such a tard, or I'm a tard. And I can remember my friend Emily in my early 20s, her sister worked with special needs children in a school. And it was the first time she was like, quit saying that word. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And so anyway, here I am in my 40s, well aware, way more aware, more just better at all the things. And I
Yeah,
still, this stuff comes up
it
out of
does.
just from my foundation and like, and it doesn't have anyway, it's a whole journey, I
Yeah.
guess.
You're a work in progress. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I know. So anyway, I'm sorry for just saying that
It's
because I
okay.
said that some different time recently and I caught myself and I was like, what the heck? And I like Googled the definition and to see, I'm just trying to cultivate
Yeah.
awareness, but in my jitters, the things still come out. So, okay. All right. So here we go. I'm going to start. Oh, good. Look, our timer's up. I guess I felt the need just to talk. So as long as my timer went. Okay. 25 minutes. That way, we'll hold to it. I'll keep an eye on it and be very mindful to kind of shut down the podcast audio. I feel like what's cool about putting this on YouTube too is then we still have that little bit of this content and then the end, and then people can know that I'm a work in progress.
Yeah. See? We all are. We're all works in progress.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start this and I'm going to take a breath and then we'll launch into podcast mode.
All right.
Okay. Welcome to episode 4 of the PKC podcast. I'm here today with friend and rep Emily. This is part 2 of a series that we're doing on infertility and pregnancy loss. And it's been almost 2 weeks ago that we did our first episode that you can check back, episode 3 on the PKC podcast, and listen there to what Emily shared so transparently and beautifully about her journey so far. I will warn you that the audio is not great, but as you get into it, I feel like you kind of forget about it a little bit and it's still worth listening to. Just a quick recap, I guess, Emily, if you don't mind, and fill me in if I forget, but you started with your journey with IUI, and you shared with us that you are going to begin IVF treatment.
Correct.
You shared with us that you have a husband and a son, but that you did experience pregnancy loss.
Yes.
And you haven't been able to get pregnant since then. So that's what you're working on. You share transparently about all the things to help bring awareness around this. And then of course you're working on raising some funds. We'll talk about that more. We touched on how loved ones can share with loved ones who are experiencing infertility when they're pregnant. That was something we touched on. We touched on the cost of IVF.
Yes, we
And
did.
and we touched on how intimacy with your husband has been affected a little bit by this. So those are just some of the things. We don't need to dive into those. We already dove into those last time. So those are things we talked about that people can find in episode 3 on the PKC podcast. Okay, I'm going to stop and just say hi. Tell me how
Hi.
you are.
I'm doing very well. I was telling JL that once I'm done recording the podcast, I'm going to go meet my niece. I alluded to that niece or nephew in the last episode when we talked about how do you tell a family member that you're pregnant if you're experiencing loss or excuse me, infertility. And so my sister had her daughter yesterday, so I'm doing very well. I'm very excited. It was like a nerve-wracking weekend. She was in labor since like Friday, slowly. So it's always exciting, like, when they're actually here. So
Yeah,
yeah,
congratulations.
thank you.
Do you want to share with us a little bit more about the depth and a range of emotion you're feeling around this?
Yeah, I didn't know if I would even get to go to the hospital. So my sister's still in the hospital. And so hospitals, like, visitor policies are evolving, since COVID, and I think it made a lot of them like revisit their policies just in general. And so I made the cut
Good.
of the people, but they weren't sure if like siblings of the baby would count as the limit, and so I was literally the last one because siblings do not count. And so I know it's just very weird. Like my brother-in-law did count as a number and the kids don't, so it's just kind of interesting that way. So I mean, obviously it was like this buildup of anticipation, like you want everything to go okay. And my sister had a emergency C-section with her other daughter, and so I was like, really hoping and praying that things would go well for her. She did need another C-section just because of some blood pressure issues and that kind of stuff. So but then it was like the waiting, and like they wanted their other daughter to meet their new child, and so it was like all day I'm like on my phone. And so when they finally called, I was like ready for bed. I was like, okay, now I have to go to bed. And so it was just kind of wild. I'm sure it will be a little bit emotional for me. Obviously, like this is my niece. But just knowing that, not everyone struggles to get to where they are today. And, it just comes so easy to some people. And, that's something that I've thought a lot about, like not just with my sister, but people in general, and they'll say things like, how long did it take you to have your first child, and talk about that. So you hear people talk about how long it took them to conceive, or wow, it was like really fast. Or I know people who are, oh, we went off, using any type of birth control, thinking it would take a long time, and we got pregnant right away. And you're like, what? How do
Mhm.
it just doesn't even make any sense, where I think they maybe just got lucky. But that's something that I think, you don't not everybody always talks about, who do struggle with infertility. A lot of people don't. It's a taboo topic.
Mhm.
Um so they don't talk about like the struggles that they have, or they don't think people want to hear it or whatever. It's really interesting, we're doing this podcast this week, so this week is actually National Infertility Awareness Week. And so there is a lot of push for, I think the hashtag is like, find your voice, I think is the hashtag that people are using, so that way you can find and follow people. But it's to share your story and to give you the courage to speak up and try to make changes. We talked about the cost. There's
Mhm.
people who and organizations who provide information for you to go to your employer to try to get them to change their um, policies, or however their coverage, or to talk to your legislators to make it covered in the state that you live in. So there's just like a lot of different facets, and I didn't really participate last year. I've said this in other spaces that I didn't really want to believe I was part of this infertility group of people, because I was sure that we weren't, this was just a minor thing along the way for us, and that we would never really hit being part of that, being diagnosed with infertility and all of that. So I haven't really delved into it much. And so I'm hoping this week to be able to, I think they have different things every day. And today is to share a photo or something. I don't know. I have to look at it more in depth when I have some time to think about it. So I'm, hoping to do that. And if not today, I'll kind of catch up. But I think it's just really important too, that I've seen it with people who have miscarriages and they've never shared. And then you get to Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and then there's an actual day. And then there's people all over the woodwork sharing about their losses. And so there's something I think very therapeutic about knowing that you're in good company, even for a terrible thing. And so I think it just gives infertiles the like power to feel that they're not alone, in having
Yeah.
this whole week dedicated to bringing awareness towards a topic that again is not really well versed in the general population, I think.
Yeah, I noticed that on your stories that you, and I was for some reason thinking a month because it's always seems like it's a month. So it's interesting, like how do you get to that month status?
I don't know. We deserve a month, but
Yeah, you deserve a month. And especially I think that these the days, the weeks, the months, whatever it is that's given to something where people can openly share and then find others openly sharing like is important to get just the door open because really we want to be comfortable sharing all the time because it's not just about the day, the week, the month. Like it needs to, we don't need to wait for these windows. You know, it's nice to have the windows because
right.
that encourages it. But I did notice a post that I want to ask a question about, but it is interesting that we're doing this week. I'm like, that's awesome. And then
Yeah, it was good timing.
it's interesting that you're going to visit your niece too. I mean, there's just a lot in that energy going on right now.
Yeah.
And you spoke on a panel. So I saw that you spoke on this somewhere else. Do you want to plug that for a second in case people
Yeah.
want to go listen?
On Wednesday, I don't know when you'll post this, but the 26th of April, the Lucky Anchor podcast is the panel that I was a part of. And so there were four of us. Um, I think we all have experienced loss and infertility, and maybe not necessarily in that order.
Mhm.
So it was just a really nice way to hear different experiences around infertility because everybody's journey is completely different. You know, people have different diagnosis, or they've got different issues, surrounding that. And so it's kind of, um, I think, nice to just hear from some shared people all in one space that way. So I was really, they shared a clip, and I posted that today on my Instagram, and I'm really excited to hear the whole thing. Obviously, I was part of it, but it's different to listen back because you're not trying to process what the other person is saying
Yes.
and to react to that. So it is nice, and I'm looking forward to it. It's really hard to listen to yourself talk, though.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I was driving, listening yesterday or over the weekend to our first podcast, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm talking in my car, but I'm not
Yeah.
saying anything. It was weird.
It is weird. I love it. I love listening. It's easier and I it is weird hearing yourself, but it feels like when I'm listening to myself, that I'm just listening to someone.
Right.
So I sort of detach a little bit, whereas I don't do that when I'm watching video. Like I like listening better. So hopefully
Right.
that was okay for you.
Yeah, it was fine.
I want to ask you because you brought this up, and I didn't. Anyway, I'll just spit it out. But the diagnosis piece, like you just said, you were kind of slow thinking that you didn't want to admit to being on an infertility journey, you know,
Right.
because there is this range of time that it takes for people to get pregnant, and it doesn't fall into infertility. And so what is the diagnosis time frame for that?
Most reproductive endocrinologists, or I think there's like two different types of doctors that I think that deal with infertility issues. Most of them, if you're under 35, won't even bring you in for any type of testing, until you've been trying for 12 months,
Okay.
like consistently for 12 months, not like a calendar year and you took 2 months off of trying to conceive. So they want you to have 12 months of trying to conceive under your belt. There are people who do get their like OBGYNs to run some like lab values and tests and such. Um, I've heard of some doctors doing it after a lot of pleading, but I feel that like if you go out into the infertility space, most people will say we had to try for a year beforehand. If you're over 35, it's only 6 months.
Okay.
And I think I read that has to do with, your egg quality starts to decline as you get older, and maybe the number of eggs you have does decline. And some people, run into those issues later in life. And so if you're over 35, it's only 6 months. And then I'm thinking, oh, well, I wish I was 35. I would have been, but it's like, no, then I maybe have all these other issues, you know, on the other side too. So there's really not a, there, it's just I think because you're younger and I'm getting closer to that 35, so it's like, okay, I gotta hurry up and try to figure that out. So it was a whole year of trying to conceive with it was more than a whole calendar year because I had had surgery and we had to prep and wait before and after and all that kind of stuff. So it was probably closer to like 15 months actually of trying to conceive on a calendar before being able to make the appointment, and then it was the waiting to get the appointment. The clinic that I went to initially, I think they told me that I could see them in trying to think. It was a few months, and I they called me that like on a random day and said, "Oh, we have an appointment available at 1:30," and they were doing them all virtual, and so I took it because I didn't have to drive. It was probably 10:30, So I said, "Well, is it virtual? Because I can be there," but I wasn't about to go drive, an hour for a 20-minute consult or whatever it
Yeah.
was. So, but yeah, that it people wait a long time,
Yeah.
which is either there's one of two issues. There's just so many of us, or there's not enough of them, or maybe it's both.
Right.
And probably is both. Um,
Yeah.
so it just kind of depends on where you are located. I'm lucky enough to live in an area where, I'm close to Milwaukee, I'm close to Chicago. There's clinics in both locations and numerous clinics. Some people drive hours, like just for one appointment. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. I have so many questions and I'm already panicking about time because Zoom is making sure that we have these nice little chunks of podcast time now, which is great. But so I'm gonna just look at I'm gonna ask you this. You mentioned last time around IVF. You said you didn't think that you would do that. And so my question here is why and what changed your mind? And so going back to because you had done the IUI, and so that was kind of the path you were willing to take. And
Right.
so I'm under the impression, based on the comment you made, that you wouldn't do at some point you thought you wouldn't venture down the path of IVF. And so
Right.
what changed and why did you think you
Yeah. I I've heard from people who are very against IVF for many reasons. A lot of them are like religious reasons.
okay.
That is not I'm a practicing Catholic. I've been Catholic my entire life. That was not the reason why. I just didn't know if I could put myself through everything that I'm going to be putting myself through, like shots, doctor's appointment upon doctor's appointments. Your body changes, your mood changes, you have all these side effects. Like the risks are of all these other things are so great, and I didn't know if I had it in me to do that. And that makes me sad because I feel like I'm a pretty strong person. And so I think too it was a little bit of denial that I would even need it.
Gotcha.
Because surely the IUI was going to work, like we just needed a little bit of help to get there. And as the first one didn't work, and then we started talking and it's like, well, we have got two more chances. Like there's a reason why they suggest three of them, because your chances of conceiving are, I don't even know what the statistic is anymore, over three. And so with each one, I would lay in bed and tell Jeremiah, like, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? What are we gonna do? um and it was like, I'm like, well, do we try to adopt? Do we try to like become foster parents? I even had attended a informational meeting, about fostering, and I didn't know. I was like, I know people that have adopted children, like very close friends of mine, and so I'm like, well, maybe we should do that. And we kind of had to come to an agreement, the two of us, because it's not just me. But, like, there's two people in this equation. And so I
Right.
think if it was just me, I maybe would have done a different route. But, I think there's something, not that you can't love a child that you adopt, but I think it's just it's just different,
Yeah.
they can be your children and you can love them like anyone else, but it's not the same. Not to discredit people who've adopted, because they do wonderful, wonderful things. But so I was just that was just part of it. And then as we got closer, and I was like, I think we really need to think about this. And I think after we had our consultation with the new clinic and the doctor, um, and I know all about IVF. I know what it is, I know what it entails, but Jeremiah really didn't. And I asked her, can you, from the very beginning, explain this to him? Because I need him to know, like, what is going to happen to me, to us, like what this process entails. And when we left that appointment, he really understood, and really, he felt very strongly towards this doctor and how wonderful she was. And so I think that was kind of like the buy-in for
Gotcha.
him. um but yeah, I think I just never thought it would come to that,
Yeah.
like, you think you were gonna, like, or we'd be the miracle people that just got pregnant. It
Yeah.
happens. I know
Yeah.
people that's happened to, that they were ready to pull the trigger and start IVF and then got pregnant. So, it was kind of like you're just waiting for your miracle.
Yeah.
Any day, go
Well,
for it.
that's now I feel like there's no way around me talking over you at that point. I very clearly cut you off.
It's okay. It's fine.
Because you had mentioned, was it your sister who had the miracle baby? It was somebody close to you that they had been struggling, or I don't even know if that's the right word, struggling. They were on the path of infertility and got pregnant. You said that in last time. So
Yeah.
who was that, and how does that happen?
I actually know three people, after thinking about it. So a close friend of one of my sisters, um they were, I think, like the next cycle they were getting ready to start IVF. And I don't know, if that is just time, and just like circumstances were right. But I have two family members also that had other medical conditions that cause infertility, or that's kind of like a side effect. And so both of them had ended up having surgery at some point to correct those issues. And so things just, the environment was right and those issues were semi resolved. I don't know if you ever really ever get over those, maybe, like, one of them suffers like endometriosis, and so like that can grow back. And so I think just the conditions were right, for her to, get pregnant a second time without needing that surgery. So whatever has happened since her first pregnancy, it ended up working. So I think things like that, where, it just, maybe they missed something, or, and but yeah, so it does
Or
happen.
or the window was just such, like you said, the
Right.
environment, the circumstances were just magically. So when are you supposed to start? When's your first treatment?
If you could tell my body anytime, I would appreciate. So actually, and this is like really TMI, but this is my life, so I
Yeah,
shall
no, we're
share.
all about TMI. That's the
Yeah,
whole point of this
yeah.
podcast.
So I never really when I was younger, I had like irregular periods. I was a swimmer, I was an athlete, like whatever. And then as I got older, and when I was married, I had gone on birth control. And obviously your period is regular because you're taking the pill that tells your period when to come. And then after my miscarriage, I had some really crazy periods because your body is just all sorts of screwed up. And then after that point, I had gotten fairly regular. But in September, I had the really long cycle, like over 40 days. They actually gave me medication to induce a period. It had happened again after my third IUI, which would have just been in February. And so the old clinic gave me that prescription again, and I can't remember what it's called. I think I'm on cycle day 47 right now. And so they're just waiting. They're waiting for my period to start. So I don't know. I think I have another week to wait until I call them. So
Okay, I think you and Jeremiah need to have all the sex. like like the window, because I'm like, I can't help it, but I'm rooting for your, your miracle, like
me
before
too.
you're supposed to start. So anyway, if you were ever gonna do it, I say do it now.
Right.
uh,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally.
Okay, well, this is so painful for me, but it's like time for us to start wrapping it up. Like in 9 minutes, this is gonna shut me down, whether I've said goodbye or not.
I
So,
know.
gosh, I have big questions. Will you talk? Are you able to talk with me again next week, and we can have a part 3?
I'm free.
Okay. So we'll email. I'll go through the things here. Let me look and see if I have anything easy. I'm avoiding asking a certain question because I want to give it enough time. Not to make you feel nervous about anything. Do you want to give us, okay, you can choose. Maybe you can do both quickly. I think maybe what I'll do is go like this when we need like 2 minutes or
Okay.
something to wrap it up. Um, but I'd like sunshine bracelet info, update info, if you have it, and with that, how someone can get it and what it's for. And then you just touched on, since this is National Infertility Awareness Week, you talked, one of my questions is, and we'll come back to this before we end the series, just to make sure people really have some action items that are looking for resources. But I was curious about what some resources are for people that you would recommend. And I have a question around policy too, both inside employers and inside legislation for states and stuff like that. So I feel like that's probably a lot and more for a future show. But since, for sake of this week, since it's National Infertility Awareness Week, if there's somewhere you can point people and point people towards your sunshine bracelet, those are the things I'd like for you to do now.
Cool. All right, I'll start with the one organization that is that I've gotten information from is called Resolve. And I don't know if it's anything, their Instagram handle, I think, is Resolve, maybe something. So maybe we can find it and share somehow. But they have a lot of information about finding, I believe they're the ones that I found information about how to get information to share with your employer or other, to get things covered in legislators and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of them out there, and I can probably find some more and share those at another time. But that one I know is who I'm kind of following this week with all the prompts for the days. So that's a good place to start, I think.
Okay.
The sunshine bracelets, I actually just got tracking info today and I'm so excited. It's like I bugged them last week and they're like, we have 8 weeks to get them to you. And I'm like, I know, but I want them now. So anyways, I was just being impatient. So those are coming. So those are a Pura Vida bracelet directly from Pura Vida that I've done as a fundraiser to help us raise money for IVF slash being able to do other things because we're paying for it out of pocket, and something like going out to dinner or taking Grams to the store or something, to pick something out or whatever. So it's just a way to kind of help us along the way and provide us with some sunshine on our journey to a rainbow. And so if you go to my Instagram, VinnyGirl23, it's the bio link in the bio, you can click it, and I still have, I think, 7 more available in this round. And if we get more interest, I'm happy to order another, chunk of
Yeah.
them. So yeah, so it only took about a month. So people
Cool.
have been patiently waiting.
Cool.
So, or if you don't want the bracelet, I had somebody just make a donation. They didn't want the bracelet, so I will take your donation.
Yes, fantastic. Okay, tell us your Instagram handle one more time so
Yeah.
that people very clearly know how they can follow you, get the sunshine bracelet. Emily posts a lot of information or stories. Yeah, so she's a great person to follow if you have interest in this journey and topic.
Yeah. So it's Vinny Girl 23, and it's GURL. So it's girl. That was my very first email address way back when on Yahoo, and it's gonna follow me forever. But anyways, that is my Instagram. You can follow me there. I love talking to people who have, want to know more, have questions. I appreciate people listening or clicking through anyways. But it's kind of like my one-sided therapy to share things. So
That's good. Yeah, you're doing great work there. And it doesn't need to sit inside you. It needs to come out. And then that's
yeah.
how it can help and impact other
Yeah.
people. So just to say it one more time. So that's at VinnieGirl23, VINNIEGURL23.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Emily, so much for talking again with me today. So this is part 2 of our series, and we're going to do a part 3 next week, and we're probably going to have to do a part 4. And I look forward to these days with you so much. It's a heavy topic, and so it's not something that I intend to be or like mean to be giddy about, but I'm giddy about getting to see you and
Me
talk to
too.
you and learn more about that. So at least that's the silver lining around such a hard topic. And I'm rooting for
I'm gonna tell Jeremiah. I'm gonna go call him.
Okay. All right. I'm going to just remind everybody that if they appreciate the work that we're doing here, they can support the Pretty Kind campaign and the PKC podcast by going to prettybyjl.com, ordering there. A small batch handmade accessories that are beautiful, and you might become addicted and think that you need a collection, and we all agree. You can use code Emily R to save 10% on your website order. And so that's another little way that you can help her a little bit have some extra cash. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, Emily. And I'll encourage all of the rest of you to stay pretty loving. That's what supports us, and kind, and have a fantastic day. Okay. So we have 1 minute.
So fast.
Oh my gosh, Emily. I mean, if it weren't for Zoom, like it shows no mercy.
Yes.
The screen will go black.
Yes.
And I think that I'm going to just keep this free plan and let the screen go black, because there is no way I could have gotten off just now. Like I feel like we just got warmed up.
Yeah.
And then I have more questions. And so, but I think that people do well with, 20 or 30 minutes.
Yes.
And so if we just do that and space it out over the next 2 weeks or 3, then that's cool. And then they have, I don't know, it's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah.
I like to talk. You like to talk. We're good.
Yeah. So, okay. So in less than a minute, it's going to go black. So are you going to the hospital like now? Or like
shortly. And yeah, I gotta get some stuff ready and go get my mom. And
okay.
yeah.
What does Graham, so what does he do during the day? Does he
goes to daycare?
Goes like a daycare preschool type thing?
Yep. Yeah. So he's at daycare.
Yeah, I saw your little post about the school pictures or whatever in your stories last night.
Tomorrow's picture day. I gotta find the shirt actually. I don't know where it is.
Oh, that cracked me up.
Yeah.
But okay, so he goes to preschool daycare, and then did you say he's at your mom's right now? I missed that
No,
part.
I'm just gonna go pick my mom up to go to the
You're
hospital.
gonna okay, because you guys
Yeah,
made the cut,
we're
and
going.
then
Yeah.
and what